Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to Goosebumps HorrorTown. This is part 0, the introduction to the Event 31, the long-awaited Event 31. This was supposed to be back in the summer, but now it's September, so, stuff happens, I guess. But we finally got this update here and going, so I won't keep you too long for this one. And this is an interesting case because this is a two-parter. Because they're doing something interesting this time around. So, it's going to be interesting, but I think I have a way to do this. So, without further ado, the event is revealed to be Ghost Beach, Part 1. Yeah, so Ghost Beach is here to make it interesting for everybody here. So, I guess we're going to be talking about it in a sense. And there are some artwork I want to show off, namely just a bunch of these pictures per se, but again, there's not a whole lot to kind of go for here, but it is interesting as far as like the cover art has this unique thing to it. By the way, for the cover art themselves, they had different versions of this, which I'm going to show off right now. These versions were just sketches that he had in mind, like Tim had in mind for this stuff. And then one of them stood out, and they're like, oh, let's do that one. So then, of course, they repainted it, and they kind of did it again. So you get that kind of stay there. So it is interesting, I will say that. We go to Brandon's rework for the Ghost Beach one. It's actually kind of nice. I do dig it. It's kind of like, again, Brandon has a way to kind of remodelize the book with also paying homage to what it looks like, if you know what I mean. So I guess give it credit for there. The French version, on the other hand, is weird. It just has a skeleton hand about to poke. Death is poking some kid as he's going to die. Again, you would not even realize this would be the case, but there it is. Of course, we have the UK version, which is interesting because, it's kind of like the one for Welcome to Dead House, except it's just I guess the branches is kind of like, it's like seaweed-ish, I guess. I don't know. It's just, they try their best, man. I wanted to show this off. This one's not really, I don't know which one this language this is, but, this one particularly is interesting just because of the layout and everything like that, but it is interesting. Here's another French version of it. I think this was a reprint modern version, so this is like completely new. But I do like this one because it kind of feels more like to the book, especially with the whole cave and the creepy ghost inside there, which we'll talk about in a moment. There's this one that's supposed to be Icelandic, and it's more goofy than scary, but it is funny regardless to see this here. And of course, good old Korea, which, damn, I would totally be frightened of that thing. That's totally like, oh boy. It did its job, I'll give it that, but oh man, oh mama. Anyways, I am sorry about that, but you might be curious on exactly the story behind Ghost Beach. The Ghost Beach! Which, by the way, according to JonTron, is considered to be the worst episode to the original 90s show. So, make of that what you will. I am indifferent of it, but he has some good arguments. Some funny memes came out of it, and in the podcast when we talk about this update eventually, I'll go into details about something of an interesting fact, but I won't bore you here. Instead, let's go ahead and talk about the story per se. So, the story itself is interesting. It kind of talks about these two kids named Terry and Jerry, or Jeremy Sadler, and they're going to visit their cousins, or their aunt and uncle, which are the cousins. And they were described as being very old looking, like, almost like grandparents, but they're very they're very energetic for being old. I'm just gonna get that right there. So they live in this little beach area, and it's like they're spending the summertime with their cousins, so it's like, all right, well, interesting summer. And what's interesting about this is that this place is like, the beach is close to this graveyard, which is interesting. So they kind of go and explore the graveyard, which is like weird. They look at certain things. They look at some old abandoned, like, tombstones of sorts. And then they come across these three kids who all happen to be named Sadler. So it's like, okay, well, they're related? They're related? That's weird. Okay, this family is very related. Like, almost everyone has the same last name, as you'll notice. But anyways, the kids tell them that there is a story and legend of a ghost that lives on this beach that is said to be very spooky. It's very spooky. His name is Haddons Sadler, I think. I might be butchering his name. I'm probably correct at some point, but basically, this ghost lives in this cave, and every so often he would come into venturing out for food. And apparently his favorite was dogs, because dogs have the sense of telling what people are ghosts. So in order to stop the dogs, he eats them, to the point where only their bones survive. So they eat them, like all guts and gore, all that stuff. Yum, yum. Just eats all that up, and only the bones are left. So the kids kind of scare them about this. And, they kind of go ahead after talking with the kids to try to hang out with them a little bit, and they go and talk to their cousins about it, being like, hey, there's these weird kids who were like there, and they kind of play it off. They're like, oh, that's weird, that's kind of whatever, right? And they don't really pay much attention to that. And at some point they also notice the cave in question that actually has a light at night, which is odd. So they talk about the cave, and like, there's a weird light coming in the cave, and they're like, oh, that probably is nothing. That's probably a Aurora Borealis or something like that. And yes, the funny Simpsons meme of the Aurora Borealis kind of thing pointing out there. But anyways, long story short, the kids are kind of like, go with the other kids, and they kind of figured, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and get this ghost. We're going to trap him inside the cave so he doesn't haunt anybody else anymore, right? So they go up to the cave. They're about to kind of go up, and the other three kids were kind of scared, like, oh, we don't want to go there, and kind of run off, right? And they're like, why are you, like, they're kind of like, it was their idea to kind of come in the first place, right? And he's like, all right, let's go, right? And he looks and sees that Terry is grabbed by the ghost in the cave. Oh, and I'm going to end it right there. I'm going to live in, like anything else, I'm going to end in a cliffhanger. So all you know...
They're dead. 2 kids going to die tonight.
So I hope you enjoyed those JonTron memes. They gotta keep on coming. But I will continue in part 2. Normally I would show you the whole story, but I'm going to end it right there because I have a feeling part 2, I know what's coming up. But I'll keep that like the kind of tight-lipped for now because I don't know for sure, but it kind of seems like they're aiming that way. So if you're curious about the update itself and what it comes with, let me go ahead and show you this. Terry has come to HorrorTown to visit her beloved aunt and uncle. Yeah, right. She's here to make new friends, discover mysteries, fight monsters, and enjoy her summer vacation before heading home. Luckily for her, ghosts are driving everyone off the beach, and someone has to make them leave. The new content comes with 12 new narratives. The 2 character coming up is Terry, an energetic girl trying to have a good time, and with a secret unknown a secret that's unknown even to her. I wonder what that might be. The monsters per se? A new pair of ghosts haunt HorrorTown, and especially Terry. What's wrong with them? I guess we'll find out more. Of course, they have items like the Lifesavers, Ugly Starfish, Ectoplasm, Sunscreen, Kids Inflatable Boat, and Holy Water for some reason. Decorations, they have stuff like Mutant Sark, Death Castle, Rusty Boat, Spooky Seaside Cave, and the Skeletal Turtle. Yeah, so not only does the ghost go after dogs, they go after turtles as well. And then the animations, they got stuff like climbing Tomb Hill, exploring the cave, and getting ready to explore and more. And that's roughly it for now. I mean, I know it's very short and all that stuff, but it's a very interesting case because this is an interesting dilemma in the sense that there's 2 different versions of this. So I know, you want to have more. It'll come eventually. Sometime in November, I would assume, because next month is Halloween, and that's going to have a Halloween update, and we can't do Christmas because, that's in December. So the only other month we have is November. So part 2 is probably coming in November, and I'll continue off where we last left off in our story, okay? Sounds like a plan. Alright, with that in mind, I hope you enjoyed this little recap, and hopefully you'll see part 2. Once you get to part 2, come back to part 1, but I don't know. Anyways, I haven't been rambling on around. It's been a while since I've done these, but yeah, I've been Grim. This is part 0 to the Ghost Beach Part 1. So hopefully you enjoy what goes on here, and I guess we'll see what ends up happening. So let's go on to Part 1, shall we? Ooh, spooky ghosts.